Hi everyone, it's Neil from Domino Pinball. I'm here in the gloriously world famous Domino Arcade. I'm standing next to Batman because I've just spent an amazing kind of half an hour talking to Joe Kaminkow of Kapow Pinball. If you go internet database and put his name in, Joe's name in, you will find he was involved in hundreds of pinball machines. I was very fortunate to do a quick interview with him. Talks about this fantastic game, Batman '66, which is how I met Joe at Stern during Stern's 30th anniversary. And also a huge thanks to Joe, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have met the late Adam West, who is a personal hero of mine. Joe is a hugely creative guy. He's been in the industry his entire life, and he's been involved in some amazing games. This one, RoboCop, Space Shuttle, you could just list them on and on. And actually, jealously looking during this interview, as you'll see, he kind of shows some of the memorabilia of it. And as kind of a network engineer, as I build cables underground most of the time, it's hard to see what we do. With his work, it's very visible. There's beautiful artwork. There's pieces of software. There's bits of things that are all very tangible artwork and designs and previous designs. Anyway, Joe was very kind to spend a bit of time, talk a little bit about his history, a little bit about Batman '66 and the origins of that. Also, that he's still working with Stern on a couple of projects. I was polite enough not to press him on what they were, because I think that's the right thing to do. I think when things are ready, I'm sure he'll share us with them. But I sense that later this year we're in for a treat from Stern Kapow again, and I'm really looking forward to that. We also talk a little bit about the space program. As many of you know, that's a big thing for me and also for Joe. So huge thanks to Joe. He's a very, very busy guy out creating games for us. I hope you enjoy the interview. I'm going to warn you, there is a little bit of profanity in the interview, so if you don't like swearing, probably not wise watching it. Nothing horrific, but it's just a bit of a warning. We did it on a Zoom conference platform. It's not a newsroom thing. It's a bit rough and ready, but I think you get a really great insight to an incredibly creative person and someone that, over my kind of re-interest in pinball over the last couple of years, someone that I've become much more appreciative of, and I have huge respect for him. A hugely friendly guy, time for anybody. If you haven't met Joe and you get a chance to, I really encourage you to do so. He's a phenomenal guy, and I look forward to seeing him again. Anyway, let's roll the VT, and I'll pop back at the end. So Joe, I know you're very busy. I love the Kapow logo in the background. That's fantastic. I suggest I'll just remind myself, and I really appreciate you doing this, because I know you are super, super, super busy. And I will start off with a question. So, Joe, I'm relatively new to pinball, but I've been learning about it over the past few years. I know you've been involved for many years. Maybe just give us a short background as to what you've done in pinball and video gaming and gaming in general.
Well, my introduction to pinball happened in 1963, and when I was 5 years old, my father became a controller of a vending machine and pinball distributor in Baltimore. So I've been around games my entire life. So when I was a teenager, my father was with Bally. I used to unbox crates and set up games, and that was my summers.
Wow.
When I was about 21 years old, 21, 22, thereabouts, I forged my first relationship with Williams Electronics right out of college. Set up a company with another fellow named Tom Doe, DEAUX, called Logical Highs. And there we made the recommendation and worked with Williams on Defender Pinball. That was my first pinball machine.
Right.
And then, of course, went to work for Williams after my company did just okay, and went to work in their marketing and then eventually into game design. And when the company was really flat on its ass after kind of failing pretty miserably in the Laserdisc space, as the video game business imploded in '83, '84, Barry Ausler, Larry DeMar, and I, along with Mark Springer, and Eugene Jarvis did sounds, and a few other people helped. We did Space Shuttle Pinball. Williams was closed until Space Shuttle.
Yeah.
I left the company about 8 months later, did a couple of Japanese video games like Matt Mania and a few other things with Tato. And then Gary Stern and I, after the failure of his company, I went and made a game called Loch Ness Monster for Game Plan, which had they made it, probably it'd still be in business today, and Stern would not have. But it was a with a, and Gary and I laugh about that all the time. They chose to make Roger Sharp Cyclops instead, which pretty much put them out of business. They had one shot, and they chose wrong, as they say. Gary and I started what was Data East Pinball, November of '86. And we founded the company with him and Shelly Sachs in his basement until I was with them until 1999. Sold the company to Sega in '94 when there was a fair amount of money owed, I believe, from Data East at the time. And when the cartridge business imploded, we were sort of the leverage against the loan. Yeah. And was with them until the last game I made practically was South Park,
right?
Which sort of put Pinball 2000 underwater because it just out-earned it appreciably.
Yeah, it was a game.
Yep. And then, helped Gary throughout the years on either getting licenses or helped him on Austin Powers or Harley Davidson around that era. And then, I've always been around to look at his stuff and help him wherever I could throughout the years with either material or a supplier or an artist or something. And for the 30th anniversary of Stern, we decided to do Batman 1966. I had a relationship with Adam West from both Zynga and from Aristocrat. And of course, before that, because I own the Batmobile.
Right.
And it was kind of fun for us to make that game together. And then we're doing another project, which will come out November, January-ish timeframe this year.
Another pinball project.
Another pinball that we're doing together. It'll be the second Kapow project with them. And there's another project they're working on now also that I acquired the license for them. And we kind of partnered up on that, but to a much lesser extent. But, again, any way I can help Gary, I always will.
Great.
So that's kind of my, led pinball for a lot of years. The business became too small, contracted too big to support, come in, each of us in a way. Yep, all yours, Ron. Each of us in a way that we felt was, we could each make a living that would support our families. So I took the bullet and went into gaming. So
I kind of, in terms of, there's kind of a resurgence of pinball. I mean, I was into pinball and kind of just was in university in the early 90s, and then I left university, got really busy at work, and then disconnected from pinball for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And now there's this kind of resurgence, Batman 66, which is how I met you at Stern, which I love the game, phenomenal job. I'm a huge Batman fan, and you ask who your Batman is. My Batman is Adam West, and actually I wanted to thank you because I think that whole setup, I got to meet him in Chicago.
Yeah. I've got my Adam West there, and
oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and throughout the years,
and which is great. But what's your kind of take on this kind of resurgence? Is that oh, that's phenomenal.
Well,
the Batman gang.
I think it's a couple things. I'll walk you outside and show you something too. You'll get a kick out of.
Great.
This is my play area.
Fantastic. Wow.
That.
Wow.
There's a Knight Rider.
You like cars? that is fantastic. Oh wow, Batmobile, fantastic, beautiful.
The kick out of it.
Is that the Batmobile?
Oh, it's one of them.
One of them, fantastic.
It came off the original molds, I believe.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing.
And of course, I call the place the
beautiful.
Batcave.
The Batcave.
That
is brilliant.
Little cars. I've been fortunate in my career. So fast stuff.
Very nice. Very nice.
The resurgence of pinball, I think it's a couple things. First off, games work now
Yeah.
I think having the ability to change displays was important. Everything
Yeah.
good, Ron? Okay, that's fine. The change displays, I think, has mattered to be able to, I think we've always had a research, and we went from lights to score reels, from score reels to numeric display, from numeric display to 1,000,000 points in the numeric display, 16-digit numeric display, alphanumeric display, dot matrix, which was the first one ever, was a checkpoint. It was I think 32 high, and then of course, then Williams did 64 high.
Yeah.
And I think now that we have color TFT displays, it looks really good, and you can do, we kind of elevate it makes everything else kind of obsolete when you look at Batman with the color display.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. The flippers work.
I think Lyman.
Yeah, flippers work. I'm gonna do my treadmill desk while we're talking. Flippers.
That's okay.
Work.
Lyman done a great job on the whole Batman integration. It's phenomenal. Absolutely.
Well, I almost
phenomenal.
killed him at the Pinball Expo because we couldn't even flip a damn ball. So
yes.
he was having a little bit of a fucking meltdown there. So that didn't help the weekend. But hey, I hired Lyman once at the company, gave him a chance to go from being a player to being a game programmer. And to his credit, and to the credit of both Dave and Gary, they kind of stuck with a slower time frame around the game, but have made a game that I think might be a game that gets sold for many, many years, because I think both the theme is timeless.
Yeah.
The playfield was very good. And, we started with the original Batman game that George did and made, significant changes to both the gadgets, to making the ramps flow and shoot better. It was nice to collaborate with George. He's a great designer and artist, and it was nice that, he and I could work in a collaborative style together. And this new game we're working on right now, it's collaborative as well. And, to much to Lyman's credit, he had a vision for the software. He gets all the credit for how that game plays and what the features are. And I think it will be one of the classic games of all time when it's finished.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the layout of it's great. The thing I love about it is the color. Batman, those programs of that era, the color on them is just phenomenal.
Well,
So listen,
fantastic as an artist.
Yeah.
He's I've worked with great artists over the years, Morgan Westling and Kevin O'Connor and Paul Ferris, and each have had their era of pinball. Even Connie Mitchell back in the days of Flash and Firepower and things like that. But Franchi, he really gets it. He really loves the art form. He really understands the rules and ties the features together artistically. And I think Batman's about a near perfect game.
Yeah, and I think the thing I like about what he did on Batman is the attention to detail. As a fan, and I've got books on Batman of that era, things like the moustache on Joker that most people wouldn't even notice it, but kind of crazies like me that love Batman certainly did. So you got a few things in the pipeline with Stern. What next few years? What does that entail for you and Kapow?
Well, I'm very busy full time. I work full time for both Aristocrat Gaming, and I spend most of my time, good chunk of my time, at Zynga, creating unique new social products. I've got 5 projects underway with them right now, so I'm pretty busy all the time. I do pinball because I enjoy playing it. It has gone from something I enjoyed to do that became a career and somewhat laborious at times, and now I get to enjoy it again. And it's sort of like the guy that has a kid in their 20s and then ends up with a new young wife, and they have a kid in their 50s. You appreciate your child a slightly different way. Not that I've had a child in my 50s, but for me, to have stepped away from pinball for really 19 years, with the exception of visiting Gary, or I'd buy a game from time to time. I've got a Tron and a 24 and an NBA, which was based off of the original Space Jam I made. It's just really nice to be able to go back and enjoy the hobby again. I mean, if you look around the Kapow offices, you'll see a couple things. I mean, that's the original back glass.
Oh,
Mammoth.
wow. Yeah.
That's it right there.
Fantastic.
And then over here, two things you probably have never seen. This is the original back glass RoboCop. Kevin O'Connor, and this is
I
back
know
glass.
someone who would love that. I tell you,
Yeah. This
a
was
friend of mine.
actually the original back glass for Viper. We ended up doing something different, but that was the first painting that Marcus made.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Very nice.
So, pinball's still a big part of my career and of what I did. And, over right by my desk, you can see there's the Jurassic Park cover with Ed Sabula on it, and Mike
Right.
O'Donnell and Gary Stern and Ed Sabula, who was my mentor. And, it was a great experience. I mean, not too many people can say they actually started a pinball company. Not too many can say they started one that's still in business.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, Joe, I know you're super busy. I really appreciate this this kind of, this catch up. I'll let you get back to work.
I've got one question for you.
Sure.
Are you an Apollo 11 fan?
Yeah, so Joe, I'm named after Neil Armstrong.
Really?
Yeah, so the kind of space program's always been it got me into engineering, it got me into computing, and so I'm a software engineer by trade. Although I'm a network, I work for BT and do network architecture here in the UK, the equivalent of AT&T in the UK, and the Apollo program. I kind of like things that are big, and there's nothing bigger. So and I like that again. The history of it's huge, and actually in some respects, pinball and video games are linked to it because of the whole silicon, early silicon and Apollo led to, in pinball and arcade games. I remember some of the chips coming out were state of the art silicon.
Sure.
So there's a linkage there on that electronic side, and I just think it's a phenomenal thing that a lot of people put their heart and soul into, and I think it's something to celebrate.
What year were you born?
72.
Okay, so you weren't alive when they landed on the moon.
No.
I was 11, and I
right.
remember walking outside. We watched it on a black and white TV with rabbit ears with about 10,000 pounds of aluminum foil. I was at the summer camp in Pennsylvania. I remember walking outside and looking up at the moon and going, "Oh my God, there's a man there."
Yeah.
And you'll get a couple of kicks out of it. If you ever look at the space shuttle backlash, you'll see a few things. One was the space shuttle was named Defender on the backlash.
Oh, okay.
This is the name of the first big Williams video game. And then there's an A with a little lightning bolt through it, which was the logo of the Manhattan Project. So our joke was our space shuttle was packing.
Right, yes.
Then I assume
I like it.
You've read First Man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I've got it, and it's one of those books. I read bits of every now and again. It's in the right state, but yeah, it's great. It's great they're doing a movie of it.
Did you read Jeffrey Kluger's book about Apollo 8? It just came out.
I have done, yes. So I met Jeffrey. He is an amazing guy. I met the crew of Apollo 8 as well.
Wow.
My wife and I went to a charity event year before last, and we got to meet all of them. And actually, if I give me 1 second, I will show you my art, Joe. This is a picture that they all signed.
Wow, fantastic!
Yeah. So that's my so my house is kind of filled with these sort of pictures.
That's fantastic. Jim Lovell, I think he's got the biggest head of any human I ever met.
He's fantastic.
Large head.
Yes.
But we worked with Jim when we did the Apollo 13 game.
That's right. Yes.
That was a really fun pinball with 13 balls. I still don't think there's any moment. I really love the moment in Twister when the balls kind of spun around and flew off. But with those 13 balls ripping down, that's just worth the price of admission.
It's nuts.
Yeah,
it's one of those great things. Well, great things in pinball is Apollo 13. I love it when that it's hard to get to that mullet, but when you do, it's like boom.
Well, that's what Capcom was named after, the Apollo program too. Capcom software, because Tsushimoto really loved the Apollo program too. So
Right.
Capcom was named after Capsule Communication, of course.
Yes, yeah. I always wonder. I've actually, that's really great that you cleared that up, because I used to always think Capcom. I wonder if that's linked to Apollo. It's great to find out. And Capcom's another company I love in terms of video games. I'm not so big on video games, but actually I own an original Defender Robotron in Stargate cocktail form.
Well, I think when 10,000 points used to mean something is when a video game is great. So
yes, I agree.
But well, Neil, it's great to talk to you. I'm a big Apollo and space fan. I got to see the last space shuttle blast off.
Fantastic.
And what a rumble! What a thrilling moment that is.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of the Apollo program for many years.
Great. Well, it's good to hear people are have a passion for it as well, because it's a huge passion for me. Joe, listen, keep working in pinball. I think you're from my point of view. I actually own Star Trek 25th Anniversary. It's one of my favorite games, and it's a brilliant game. I'm also a big Star Trek fan, so I love that game. It's one of the first machines I bought, and I've only really got back into this.
That was a nice game. Our games used the stuff I did, and I think had a different sensibility and a different form of entertainment than some of the things that are out today. But I'll tell you a great story. We were working with Jimmy Doohan, and he told me, he really hated William Shatner a lot. I mean, they just really didn't get along. And he said, I used to do something that would drive him crazy. I said, what's that? And he grabbed his crotch with his hand, kind of like Michael Jackson does, grabbed his crotch. And he said, Cotton, I got your crystals right here. Drive him nuts.
So listen, Joe, much appreciated. I'm going to kind of chop this up a little bit, and I'm going to broadcast it on one of my streams. Really appreciate your time, Joe. Joe, if you're ever in London, there's an open invitation to dinner. I'd love to show you around. Probably a long stretch, but anytime you're here, I'll take you up to BT Tower. You can see the sights.
That'd be fun.
And I really appreciate your time here. I know you're super busy.
Town in London, as far as I'm concerned. So
great.
Thanks for calling. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And I think when you see the next pinball that I'm doing with Gary, don't blow your mind.
Okay, I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing you at the launch, hopefully. Brilliant. Thanks again. I appreciate that. Thank you. So that was Joe. I mean, what an amazing bat cave he has. I mean, it's mind blowing. Some beautiful motors. I'm here in my bat cave, and I thought this was pretty cool till I saw his. So absolutely amazing. Very kind, and really appreciate you sharing all of that with us, Joe. We wish you well. This is Neil McRae from Domino Pinball. Big thanks to Joe and Kapow and Stern and all the guys involved in bringing this great game. I know many of the Pinside Batman crew will be overjoyed to have seen that interview. I just kind of reached out and asked him if he wanted to have a chat. So thanks again, Joe. Thanks everyone for watching. This is Domino Pinball. We stream most Friday nights on Twitch, twitch.tv/Neil McRae. If you use Google for us, you'll find us. Big shout out to Flip Out in London, in Croydon. If you're in London, the biggest pinball centre around the UK is in Croydon. And a big shout out, if you're looking to buy a pinball machine in the UK, Pinball Heaven, talk to Phil there. He is the genius of pinball, and he will support you and service you and give you a great experience. I buy all my games from Phil, and he's a great organisation to work with. Once again, I'm Neil McRae. This was Domino Pinball. Thanks for watching.